Okay, folks. We'll start this last session of the afternoon then. So we're going to be breaking this up into 3 wee chunks. First of all, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to something called the Tidyverse. Woo! And then Elaine's going to talk us through how data cleaning is quite a big and often overlooked task in lots of data acknowledgement, data management, stuff like that. So that's a good step-by-step process on how you get your data in, get it sorted, and get it analysed and things. The Tidyverse. Who's heard of or uses the Tidyverse regularly? Okay, a few people know of it, yeah. If it's a completely new and mystical term to you, the Tidyverse is a set of packages that are built for tailoring our use for data science. So as you're learning R, you kind of get the knack of it being a bit of a programming language that statistics people use a wee bit, and how you kind of navigate between those two areas where things can be more confusing and more complicated than they need to be. Well, Tidyverse has a whole set of things that are written to make that a bit more straightforward. So I'm going to talk you through why some of this works really well, some packages and functions that can really help when you're importing, manipulating and analysing your data, and hopefully some clever hints and tips of how you can make things a bit smoother, a bit clearer, and a bit quicker as well. The Tidyverse way. The Tidyverse is built around all your data analysis going to follow a pattern. It's good to have a kind of this in your mindset of what you're doing. First of all, you're importing your data from whatever source it is. You're tidying it, which we're going to cover in a little bit, to be of analysable quality. And then you've kind of got this loop of how you're transforming, visualising and modelling it to try and explore what's going on in the data and to test your hypotheses and find out what can be seen and told from this data before you're outputting and communicating something at the end. Now, the Tidyverse packages sort of fit all the way along this line. There's a whole bunch of packages that are really integrated with each other and trying to build all of this process into a smoother, data science focused pathway as you're doing all your analyses. So we're going to cover just a couple of these things. First of all, Reader is a good way of reading in your data. We've seen use of read.csv earlier. There's other reading functions that are built in Tidyverse. Tibble is a type of data frame that's got a bit more functionality to it, which is quite nice. Tidyr for tidying things. Dplyr, look at some of these functions specifically, and ggplot for plotting. So you probably come across lots of bits and pieces of these fairly regularly and things. The key thing, though, I want to start on for the Tidyverse way of doing things is the pipe. Anyone use the pipe all the time in their R use? Anyone never used it? Anyone completely confused what I'm talking about and why there's some funky symbols on there? The pipe is a very, very useful tool when you know how it works and what you're doing with it. To demonstrate it, we're going to imagine that you have some data you want to import and you want to do some stuff with it. So you know what data is, you know what functions are. So we're going to start with a data set called me, and eventually we want to transform this data set to me being at my desk at work. And to do that, we need several functions. Now, one way of processing the data set me into a functional person sitting at a desk at work is to do these functions one by one and create lots of intermediate me's. This is not a real data set and these are not real functions. You're kind of getting the joke here. Great. So first of all, the function, I need to wake me up, set a time variable in that, output that as me1. Then I need to get me out of bed, do that, pass me1 as the data to this second function to get me2, pass me2 here. So you see how we're getting me4 as the outcome of all the data tidying steps we need to do to get from our raw data, me, to me ready for work.
No breakfast.
Oh, forgot that bit. Yeah. How do you add an extra function into this? That's an excellent question. The Tidyverse will answer for it very shortly. But that's a bit messy. Your environment's going to have a stack of me's in there, and you're like, which me is the one that's ready for work? Can't remember. The alternative, of course, rather than creating all those intermediates, is to nest all your functions. So evaluate is this one first, where is it? Wake up first, me time here, then get out of bed, but remember to which the argument here was side correct. Yep, so that links there. Get dressed, there's the argument, and leave house, there's the argument. So that's another way of doing it where you're not creating all the intermediates. But again, that's really messy because you have to read this from the inside out. You hit return and it says missing bracket. You're like, where? Where's the bracket missing from? So these are two ways, standard ways. They work. They work in R. Absolutely fine to process your data to get your functional output. The trick is the pipe does a very, very clever thing. Now you'll see how it's used here. There's your data. Then you've got this pipe operator here and your function here. And what the pipe does is what comes before the pipe becomes the first argument in the function afterwards. Why does it do that? Why is that useful? Well, imagine you do this function first by passing me into here. The output of this, that we call me1 here, we can then pipe that to pass it on to the next thing. So you can end up with this is now your workflow. And it means me at the start. Again, we wanted that. We like that down here, having things in the right order. It pipes and puts that as the first argument of wake up, but you don't need to put that in again. Then it pipes the woken up me into the get out of bed me, first function. First argument in this function here. We don't need to write it again. Pipes it again, pipes it again. And this whole thing can then output the final process thing. So we've got the advantage of having everything in the right order. You've got the advantage of you know where the arguments belong, all these arguments belong in the functions, and also the advantage that you're not having to create all these intermediate variables that clog up your environment. None of this outputs a variable at all, so you just have to keep going until you've got the thing you're ready to save it. We'll work through a wee example of that in a wee second to show you how that kind of gets a bit more useful. We're going to be using some of the functions in the package Dplyr. Anyone use this a lot, all the time? Yeah. The nice thing about it is because it's a Tidyverse package and because it's built around this whole functionality of importing things, transforming things and outputting things and using pipes, it's built really simply around doing that in a nice smooth process. There's 6 key functions here that we're going to have a look at using. Filter, select, arrange, mutate, group by and summarize. We're going to use it with an S rather than a Z. Still works. We've been very clever in incorporating the British spelling. These are all often referred to just as verbs, because you see the function name is always an active verb. And that's quite nice, because when you read it through in a wee minute, we'll see how that actually flows and helps you see what's going on with your data. So let's do we work through example, and hopefully show you why this can be a good work process to get your mind into. Flick back to an R session here. Fab. So the way we're going to do this one is we're going to bring in a data set. So we're going to load up the whole Tidyverse package. And that's actually a package of packages, including all these ones here. You can install them and run them individually as well. It doesn't particularly matter, but this is just a handy way of showing them all off. Then we're going to bring in some data and see if we can ask certain questions of the data in really short, snappy ways using Dplyr. So we're going to load up the, make this a bit more visible. Loading up the data, library Gapminder, and let's just have a look at the data. If you've never seen the Gapminder data set, it's data from a whole bunch of countries. That's not a very technical term. Well, lots of countries across several decades, and measuring things like life expectancy, population, and gross domestic product per capita. And it's a very good. The Gapminder data set's quite a nice, tidy way of looking at how data can be managed. We'll see here. This is a Tibble. If you've never quite come across a Tibble before, it's just a data frame with some added functions to it. For one thing, it displays quite nicely. You can see across here what data types you've got in here. It tells you the dimensions of the data, that sort of thing. But it behaves like a data frame in almost every other way. Now, say we wanted to use this Gapminder data to figure out what countries had the highest GDP per capita in 2007. Now you can see the year variable is measuring across lots and lots of years. 2007 is the max year. Now, the classic base R way of doing this. So base R is the alternative to Tidyverse. Base and Tidyverse. In this case, people are talking about various ways to do things. Classic base R one would be to do to take the data set, then filter it by year, lowercase e, a in the middle. Do it that way. There we go. That did work. I'm surprised. So that's the classic base way. You've got to remember to put the right number of square brackets in and the commas in the right place, not before it, etc., etc. And that does work. Perfect. We got it. But here's another clever way of doing it with Dplyr functions. First of all, we want to pipe it. Here's a first clever tip. You can either type % greater than percent, all the way through, or Control-Shift-M pops it in for you. Really nice. Then what do you want to do? Well, we want to take out only the ones with 2007. Can anyone think of a verb that means take out only the relevant ones? Extract? Well, that works too. We can do filter. Yeah, easy to remember. Filter. And what we want to do is filter for year equals 2007. Fab. That's exactly what we wanted to do. And you see how that's kind of working? It's quite readable. If you never knew what was happening in these R functions before, this top one's slightly harder to explain and read than the bottom one. This is just say, take it, filter it, easy. Now, what we want to do next, though, is choose only the variables we have interest in, so the country name and the GDP per capita, and arrange them in order. Now, here's the beautiful thing, as we say, about Tidyverse. Put this on a new line. It just makes it easier to read. Select. We'll choose the variables we want. So country, and GDP per capita. I'll just tab it there. Perfect. There we go. We have the variables we want. And as you can see, every time we type something, we can just hit Control Return and see what the intermediate output is. So we've got that. Now we want to arrange it in descending order. So we want to arrange descending by GDP per capita. There we go. That is our answering our question. Norway had the highest GDP per capita in 2007. And all we've got here, let's delete that one, it's out of place now. It's quite a nice, almost little story here. The three verbs that we did to this in the order that we did them, and outputting exactly the result that we required at the end. That's kind of one of the handy things about Tidyverse. The other thing is we haven't created any intermediate variables, we haven't clogged up our environment, we haven't done anything. If we wanted to, we can now save this final output as something like top GDP countries. And when we do that, with an S, when we do that, then we create the new data set. But the beautiful part of it is we don't have to do that until we know we've got the thing we want at the end. We can keep just going through it, looking at the intermediate outputs, and go, it's perfect. Now let's save that and pass it on to the next one. So, a couple of handy things there. Let's do another wee example. What were the richest countries by mean GDP per capita in 2007? Now, again, we want to filter and say year 2007. Another top tip in R Studio, we want to do this function again, don't we? We want to filter it again. We can either type again, filter year 2007. We can copy and paste it if we're really lazy. Or if you're really, really lazy, Alt-Shift duplicates the line, and then let go of the Shift and just use the Alt, and it'll pop it down here. Ta-da! And that's one of the really nice things about having everything on a new line in Tidyverse. It's everything. You can move your functions around wherever you like. I'm just really lazy. So we're filtering for the right year. Then we want to I'm going to make sure I'm doing the right thing at the right time. We want to find the mean GDP for each continent. So we want to group by continent. And then summarize. And we'll call that mean GDP equals mean of GDP per capita. There we go. And that's our lovely output table at the end. Next thing we can do with this, so we can even visualize that by piping that straight into a ggplot command. And that means the data is going to be this data frame we've just created here. So what we have to do is add the next bits. So x equals continent. y equals mean GDP. And it's keeping up with the variables that we've just created. So it's got mean GDP here and the suggested things here. I'll make it nice fill by continent as well. And then we just want to create a bar chart. Geom bar. And of course, there we go. I've missed something. Oh no, it worked. Just that text being in red is a bit off-putting. But there we go. We've now created the bar chart. We've not saved anything yet. Everything's just been, you see in the environmental, that's just other stuff that I was using earlier on. It's not created any intermediates. It's not saved the rubbish data frames that we didn't need. It was just halfway and we were checking. And we've got the plot put out at the end. Very nice and neat. One final thing I was want to show you. So here's another thing we might do. How did each continent grow in population size and GDP across the years? This is a rubbish question. I was trying to figure out another graph I could draw. We'll see we've got the gapminder. We want to mutate is another verb, and mutate creates a new variable by taking some of the other ones and doing calculations on them. So we create a new one called GDP, which is GDP per cap per population. Population in millions. Easy peasy, divide population by a million. Summarize to get the mean and sum of pops, group by, and then plot. Now, if you've spotted an error, well done. Let's have a look. Oops, error, continent is unknown. What's gone wrong here? A couple of clever things you can do. Just select the lines you want to see, is the error in this bit? Nope, that's worked. Is the error in this bit? Oh, hold on. Something's gone wrong there, haven't we? We wanted to summarize by continent and year. That's the key thing about summarize. You need to group by first. So we didn't want the whole sum pop and the whole mean GDP. We wanted to do it by country. Oops, I put this bit in the wrong place. Okay, clever thing in Tidyverse then. You can do to sort this out is just, again, hold Alt, up 2 lines, just 2. There we go, all works. And that's so much quicker than having to do the copy, the paste, put brackets in, make sure the arguments all go in the right place. So all your mistakes are really easy to tidy up afterwards. So those are kind of some of the key helpful things that I think makes why the piping and the Tidyverse functions can make things just a bit quicker, a bit tidier, a bit more readable at the end, because we're going to look through this and say we filtered, we grouped, we summarized to get the mean, and plotted it. Very easy to follow afterwards. Here's another example, starting with using Reader and from my work. So reading in a CSV file, and then you're selecting the variables you want, grouping by things you want to summarize, summarizing, filtering. Pivot longer is another Tidyverse style function for how your table then shapes. Mutate, merge, group by, summarize, and plot. You kind of see how that's all unfolding bit by bit to create your output there. So that's hopefully a bit of showing you why Tidyverse is a great thing to get your mind into. It's something that takes a little bit of getting used to, as you remember what the functions are you're using. Between Dplyr and Purr and Tidyr, you've got almost all the functions you need to do almost all the tidying you want. Sometimes it just needs a wee minute to work out in your head how it all goes. But in theory, it could all be done this way, and you could have your data input piped all the way down to the output at the end. One last thing, I will send around these slides because I hadn't meant to go to the end. So here's some handy resources for next steps in figuring things out. The example codes I used were from this online course, which is like teaching statistics through all these functions. And there's a brilliant walkthrough of how select and summarize and stuff all work and the arguments that go to them. David Robinson is a great chap. He does a YouTube channel, and every Tuesday he does something called Tidy Tuesday, screencasts the live exploration of data sets using Tidyverse. And he's loading a data set he's never looked at before and thinking, well, what are all the functions you might want to do to tidy this, to explore it, to visualize it. And it just shows you how smooth it can be when you just know here. And he's got lots of clever tricks as well, because he's a bit of a developer, and he can show you real shortcuts for condensing 4 lines of code into one quick, clever thing. Data Camp introduction to the Tidyverse, don't need to go back. Taught by David Robinson is a really good one as well. And then this free book online, R for Data Science, is another brilliant thing to look at. One final thing, for all the stuff you can do in Tidyverse, there's probably a cheat sheet for it on the RStudio cheat sheets. And these are absolutely brilliant. I have a stack of them on my desk, and I've seen a few of them on other people's desks. And if the Dplyr one, for example, will cover all of the mutate and summarize and bits and pieces that we use there, show you all the arguments you want. Using dates with lubridate, dates and times. Lubridate is a much more smoother and working way of working with dates, because dates are awful, usually. And that's a very, very helpful way of looking through it. So have a look at that as well. And I'll send around the slides and hope that's a good wee starter. I'll pass over to Elaine, who's going to cover our next parts of how we actually, what's the work we're actually going to do when we want to tidy our data. Were there any quick questions as Elaine's coming up?